Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for being here. I couldn't make our most recent informal conversation, but I remember a few years back, you both were very generous with your time, and I really appreciated that discussion, so thank you both for that. I think there's no question that any of us, there should be no partisan difference in wanting to make sure everyone's secure. We have our own challenges, as you've heard. I think holidays seem to bring it out for at least members of Congress, or in my area. At Christmas time, we had bomb-sniffing dogs. I was wondering if I was going to start having to have treats out there for them if they were going to be coming that often. My brother's a judge in Milwaukee County. There's a court trial over someone who had threatened his life via phantom family court. So, you know, I'm glad you're here to talk about those security concerns, but I think hopefully you can tell we're like one party right now when it comes to this and making sure that you have that security. I do want to say, though, I think at a 30,000-foot level, public also has some questions about our institutions, and incumbent on us then is to make sure that we're at times either explaining or reforming to meet where some of those concerns are. Right now at the executive branch level, I think people are seeing some unprecedented amounts of new things happening that in 250 years as a country haven't happened, and that's causing concern. Here in the legislative branch, I would argue, I think people think we've lost our copies of the Constitution and that we're a co-equal branch of government. We're not doing our jobs. But I think when it comes to your branch, specifically the two areas I hear the most, and I do a lot of town halls, are the shadow docket or emergency interim docket, and then the issue around code of conduct. But shadow docket's one I really like the explanation on. I'm not a lawyer, my brother is, but you know, the amount of cases that you took up last year were surpassed, or the last session were surpassed 63 on this so-called shadow docket versus 56 on the regular. And if you go back in history, during the Bush and Obama Solicitor General times, emergency relief was only done 18 times combined over 16 years, right? So this is a huge change in how this, I'm going to use shadow docket because I'm a journalism major. I was taught to talk at 8th grade level, so everyone understands it. That's the vernacular I think people understand. But, you know, they're not really fully briefed. They're not fully argued opinions in the same way I think that people are used to the tradition of the respected tradition of the court. They're unsigned, usually emergency orders, but that definition of what's an emergency certainly seems to have changed given the number of cases. It usually was elections or like someone was on death row when you dealt with this, and now it's about whether trans people can serve in the military or cases that may not be seen by the public in the same way. So my question is just help me understand this. Yeah, I have a podcast, and we had a conversation on this with an expert one time, and they said a few suggestions they had. And let me run this by you, and if you could just talk a little more about this so I can understand why the cases have gone up so much. You know, they suggested things like restoring more mandatory jurisdiction to the court so that you're not maybe cherry picking in some ways, empowering lower courts to seek guidance from you ahead of time. So maybe sometimes that could take care of things. An inspector general for the judiciary. Anything you want to talk about? Those are some things that came up, but I would like to be able to explain to people next time I have a town hall and people ask about this, why this rise has happened in areas that I don't think we really expected those cases. And while you said there might be a decline, I think just this Trump presidency alone, in 16 months, there's what, 34 of these? Maybe my number's off. It might even be higher by now. There were 41 in the first Trump full term. That seems like a rapid expansion of this. So I talked too long, but if you could address that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman Pocan. I'll address something about the numbers. And I saw something about this in the news in the last couple of days. I'd have to sit down to figure out the numbers. I think that it could be that what the numbers are referring to are, we have mandatory jurisdiction in a sense over all of these emergency applications because every single one of them we have to either grant or deny. So to the extent that we've disposed of, say, 67, I'm not exactly sure what the number is, some of those may be denies. It's not that there were 67 grants, but in every single case, we wind up doing something on the emergency docket because we've either denied relief or we've granted relief. So, you know, as long as we have that jurisdiction, we don't have the discretionary jurisdiction like we do on the merits docket where we have cert authority and we choose which cases to take. On the emergency docket, it's like you just take all comers and you have to grant or deny these motions as they're filed.
I didn't mean to suggest, Mr. Congressman Pocan, that the overall numbers had declined, just that there was a decline in the when we grant relief with no explanation, that we do that less frequently than we once did. But I think, you've made some excellent points about there are downsides of using emergency relief, that we don't get the kind of briefing that we ordinarily do. We don't get the argument that we ordinarily get, and we should consider those downsides when we decide how often to grant this relief. Now, I will say that the court, again, as its question is like, why are all these people coming to us for this relief when they didn't in the past? I think partly it has to do with the fact that the court did grant some of these petitions, and then you encourage everybody else to bring them to you. And now it's become, you said, like, how's business? How's business? Is like, business is pretty good on this side because people see that there is at least a potential for us to grant relief, and so why not file a petition? And the court, I think, again, has, and there are differences, there are disagreements among the 9 of us. We talk about this all the time. Sometimes a majority does something and there's a dissent. But I think over time, we have at least tried to do better in important cases, ensuring that we have some degree of sort of regular-ish process, so that there are some emergency petitions. For example, the one that was just decided involving the Federal Reserve Bank, which we almost treat as though it were a regular case. In other words, we ask for argument, we make sure we get sufficient briefing to decide it. So occasionally we've done that, and that is something that I think we need to consider going forward as well.
Thank you.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.